Show tonight, a fiery showdown between the BJP's IT cell chief Amit Malviya and the Congress's social media head Supriya Shrinate on the fire lit by former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. A fiery showdown coming up on the Newstrack tonight.
Twitter founder kicks up a fight. Dorsey wakes up, points at India. Jack Dorsey says the government threatened Twitter.
It manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India.
Why has Jacktivist woken up now? Dorsey irked over being cut to size? The big focus on Newstrack.
Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has lit a massive political fire in India after he claimed that he was pressurized by the BJP government at the centre to restrict accounts during the farmers' protest. Dorsey alleges there were threats of shutdown, raids and arrests. India's IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar dismissed Dorsey's claim, calling them an outright lie.
A protest at makeshift camps along the borders of New Delhi. Stretched to the global horizon by tiny hashtags. The year-long farmer agitation over 3 contentious farm laws ran parallel in the borderless virtual world. A year and a half after the year-long agitation ended, with the Modi government repealing the legislation in question, Twitter's famous founder and former CEO Jack Dorsey has alleged the social media platform came under pressure at that time from Indian authorities to block accounts covering the farmer protests.
India, for example, India is a country that had many requests of us around the farmers' protest, around particular journalists that were critical of the government.
Jack Dorsey resigned as Twitter's chief executive in November 2021 right before selling Twitter to Elon Musk. Coincidentally, the month Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced the withdrawal of the 3 farm laws. The former Twitter CEO alleges that the Indian government even threatened to shut down Twitter in India and raid employees' homes back then.
It manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India, which is a very large market for us. We will raid the homes of your employees, which they did. We will shut down your offices if you don't follow suit. And this is India, a democratic country.
The Modi government has rejected Dorsey's claims, calling them an outright lie, an attempt maybe to cover up Twitter's own dubious and questionable global record.
I'm very amused and bemused and certainly aghast that CEO like Jack Dorsey would go on television and say an outright lie. The fact is the following, that Twitter was in violation of Indian law, laid down Indian law from 2020 to 2022. So the entire characterization and entire narrative of Jack Dorsey's is false, is premised on a falsehood.
The government insisted no one from Twitter was raided or sent to jail. The platform continues to operate to this day. Violation of Indian law, however, did attract action. Dorsey's claims threw the spotlight back on the Twitter files. That Twitter's new owner Elon Musk and his allies promoted last year as bombshell revelations proving that Twitter under Jack Dorsey intentionally muzzled conservative voices for political reasons.
ट्विटर को खरीदा भी गया दूसरे व्यक्ति के द्वारा, तब ट्विटर फाइल्स में खुलासा हुआ कि किस तरह से इस प्लेटफॉर्म का दुरुपयोग किया जाता था, पक्षपात किया जाता था. उस पे जैक डॉर्सी आज तक कोई जवाब नहीं दे पाए क्योंकि उनका चेहरा बेनकाब.
The opposition, however, isn't convinced. It called crackdown on social media handles critical of the ruling elite, part of the government's strategy against political dissent.
हर बार दमन करने के लिए मोदी सरकार क्यों खड़ी हो जाती है? अब समझ में आता है कि अगस्त 2021 में जब राहुल गांधी जी का अकाउंट ब्लॉक हुआ था और ये सब सरकार के कहने पर होता और ये सब इस देश में दमन और अहंकार सरकार जो कर रही है उसका प्रमाण करता है.
A free flow of hard-hitting back and forth over free speech once again between the government, the opposition and the former head of a global tech giant. Bureau Report, India Today.
Did the Indian government put Twitter under pressure to block and ban anti-government voices? Or is this just yet another effort by the left-leaning Jack Dorsey to try and besmirch the India story ahead of the big prime ministerial visit to the United States next week? Joining us on the big Newstrack showdown, I want to welcome, representing the union government, BJP spokesperson, head of the IT cell, Amit Malviya, squaring off against him, the Congress's social media chief, Supriya Shrineth, for a perspective from a technical legal angle. Jitin Jain joins us, one of India's best known cybersecurity experts. Sanjay Hegde joins us. He's a senior advocate in the Supreme Court. I want to go across to Amit Malviya first, because what we've got on a YouTube channel called Breaking Points is Jack Dorsey, Telsagar and Jetty, that the Indian government put pressure on Twitter to take down accounts of journalists and those involved in the farmer protest because they were taking a line which was critical of the Indian government. Can we start with your official response to how you react to the former Twitter CEO's allegations? Amit Malviya.
Rahul, I heard everything that Dorsey had to say, and he was not just lamenting against the Indian government, but also the United States, his home country. His assertions seem to include several other countries around the world, practically every country where Twitter has an operation. Now, there was a time under Dorsey that Twitter thought itself to be above law of all sovereign countries, and clearly you would recollect that there was this discussion around the globe that can tech giants really arrogate to themselves the right to be above the laws of the country that they operate in. Now, in that context, we had a situation where there was a farmer agitation, and of course, Twitter was allowing its platform to be used in a manner that was undermining India's sovereignty, law and order situation, and we all know that there was a lot of foreign intervention in that protest. Now, Dorsey's assertion that government forced them to take down accounts, raided their office, arrested their employees is obviously not born in facts, because none of it happened. There was no raid, there were no arrests, and of course there was no intimidation. But having said that, we also need to recognize that governments world over are well within their rights to ask any social media platform to restrict or take down accounts if they become problematic, if criminal elements use it, if it is being used to undermine the sovereignty of a nation, law and order, pedophilia, pornography, and several other such baskets that exist. Now, Dorsey himself has been in dock for the partisan role that Twitter played while he was helming the affairs as far as the US election is concerned. We all know how voices supportive of the Democrats and the Biden campaign were pushed up, whereas the Republicans and Donald Trump were pulled down. In fact, Donald Trump, the sitting president of America, was deplatformed by Twitter under one pretext or the other. It did not stop there. After Musk bought over Twitter, there were a series of revelations. Let me finish this point, Rahul, it's important. A series of revelations were made, particularly the Twitter files, which showed how Twitter was systematically targeting people with different ideological persuasion, shadow banning their accounts, interfering in the affairs of various countries around the world, including America, and I guess India was no exception. Dorsey himself was in India and made a political statement by holding out that poster which said, "Smash Brahminical patriarchy." Now, Twitter under Dorsey was a partisan player, they were interfering in affairs of various sovereign countries, and it would be acceptable to no other country. But Dorsey's assertion that Indian government was putting pressure on them is a lie, is not born out of facts, and if there are evidence to the contrary, Dorsey must put them out.
Suprashanit, here's a publicly acclaimed left-leaning tech activist, right? He says that he's left-leaning. We've already seen the manner in which the Twitter files played out, conservative voices being blocked, liberal, Democrat voices being put out. All of this now very well established in the public domain. The BJP's counter, you can't take what Dorsey says at face value. Here is a man who has an axe to grind against conservative causes, and he's basically peddling his own political agenda. Why should we get caught in his propaganda and accept what he's saying as the gospel? Suprashanit.
So good evening to you and my fellow panelists, and I hope I will be given the undisturbed 3.5 minutes that was given to my fellow panelists from the BJP. 40 seconds of what Jack Dorsey said is showing the mirror to this government and explains in no simpler terms that the mother of democracy has been witnessing the murder of democracy consistently. Forget about what Dorsey has said or not said. Dorsey is referring to being under pressure from the Indian government when the farm protests were happening. When the farmers were up in arms, a protest where over 750 farmers lost their lives, a protest that went on for almost a year, a protest where farmers protested in the sun, the heat, the cold, the rain, unabashedly, and a protest which eventually led to the Modi government withdrawing the anti-farmer laws. So let's please put that in context. What did the BJP do while that protest was on? It was on for almost a year. They were sitting at the borders of Delhi. What did Mr. Modi do to resolve that? Zilch. In fact, BJP ministers on record, including on your shows, have called them Mawali, Gunde, Khalistani, Naxali, Atankwadi and whatnot. Why will I be surprised? They were lathi charged. They were barbed wires that were laid all around them so that they could not cross over. The UP CM called it an international controversy. And if you remember very clearly, at a time like that, Disha Ravi, a 25-year-old climate activist, was arrested. Greta Thunberg became an international conspirator against India. Rihanna, because she said, why are we not talking about this, was hatching an anti-India conspiracy globally. This is the nature of the government that we have. You ask them a question, you show them the mirror. I am not Jack Dorsey's spokesperson. I represent the Congress party here, but I will say, Jack Dorsey ceased to be the CEO of Twitter in November 2021. He ceased to be on the board of Twitter in May 2022. What axe does he have to grind? Does he have one reason to lie? But the BJP has 1,000 reasons to hide the truth. A government that was actually working against its own farmers has every reason to quell the farmer protest. On the 24th of May 2021, when some of the tweets were flagged as manipulated media, fake news. Of course, my friend right here has the distinct honor of being the first to be flagged in India by Twitter for spreading manipulated media and manipulated fake news. That's when Twitter was raided. What law have they not, complied with? I think the country deserves to know that. But
no, but it isn't a raid. Suprashanit, I have those details here. One second, ma'am.
Let me finish.
It's in May 2021 when the Delhi police is when the Delhi police. No, but you're calling it a raid. It's factually not a raid. It's a visit. Let me just give the context to our viewers. Delhi police in May 2021 visited Twitter's office. This is when Twitter flagged some posts by ruling party leaders alleging a Congress plot to malign the Prime Minister and central government as manipulated media. A team of the Delhi police's special cell working under the government knocked on the doors of Twitter India's Delhi and Gurgaon offices to serve the social media platform a notice. So the point that Amit Malviya is making is this is the due process of the country. This is not a raid. You keep calling it a raid. It's not a raid. They're going to give a notice, which is how any law enforcement process happens.
Please let me finish. Okay, you finished your point. I'm going to speak now. I am speaking for myself and I speak for my party. The government did all it could to quell the farmer protest, even reputation assassination of India's farmers. It was only under public protest and looking at the political merit and demerit of this that they have to finally withdraw the farm bills, notwithstanding the fact that over 750 farmers had lost their lives while protesting. What stops you from thinking the government wouldn't do that? And what is the response? Typical response from the BJP and the government. They are lying. You have 1,000 reasons to hide the truth. They don't have a reason to lie. This is something we've known. And I will also place one more fact on the table before you go any further. Rahul Gandhi's Twitter account was blocked on August 2021 because of an image that he had put up. For the next 6 months, from August 2021 to February 2022, his account almost remained dormant with not a single subscriber being added. And suddenly when WSJ decides to do a story, that shadow ban goes and his subscribers go through the roof. It's another thing that with far less subscribers, he has far more engagement and impressions than the BJP or Mr. Modi does. We with far less subscribers have 9 times, 10 times their impressions than the BJP does. If this was not being done under government pressure, please explain to me how does the government pressure work? There's only one thing I'm asking you.
So let me put that question to Amit Malviya.
Reasons to answer.
No, one second.
Just 1 second. Rahul, the government actually has reasons to face some tough questions. And those tough questions are around data leak. Because they themselves are saying it was an old data leak. Who leaked the COVID data? Who's using it? Who has access to it? How did the third-party bot get access to the data? Instead of answering questions on their own data leak, they want to open a front against Jack Dorsey. Be my guest. But guess what? It only exposes you further and your incompetence.
Amit Malviya, you worked in international corporations and you know how wary they are of taking on any form of law enforcement. So when there is a visit from the Delhi police's team to the office in Delhi and in Gurgaon of Twitter, that to them feels like a raid. It may just have been to come and present a notice, but that for any corporate would feel like an intimidatory tactic, which is what Jack Dorsey seems to be referring to. So it is not necessarily a raid in the technical sense, but the Delhi police did visit their doors.
Rahul, we all know that for almost 2 years, Twitter was not in compliance with the Indian laws and regulations. Whether or not somebody sees a visit as a raid is not the moot point here. The issue is that what Dorsey said and at the level at which he is, he cannot be economical with truth or be flippant with facts. There was no raid, there were no arrests. Let that thing be completely settled. Now let me come to the larger issue of what's really happening, Dorsey's comment and timing. Rahul Gandhi goes to the United Kingdom and he appeals to foreign powers to intervene in the affairs of India, seeking their support. He is castigated for that back home. He now goes to America and meets several groups that constantly work against India's interest, and a lot of them have linkages to the ISI Jamaat nexus. He also has clandestine meetings with government officials in the US administration, details of which are not out in the public domain. We all know that Dorsey has been part of the American deep state and he's worked very closely with the agencies there to undermine the American election and the choices people were making. The Twitter was also in dock for its role in the COVID management in America and for pushing up a certain multinational pharma company's product and encouraging people to take jabs. These details have all emerged and Twitter does not come out smelling of roses in this entire thing. Now you have a man of such dubious track record making a vague assertion against India. Why is it that every time Rahul Gandhi travels abroad, you have one of these toolkit members activated? Why should in the first place people from abroad have had a role or an axe to grind in India's farmer protest? There was a truckers protest in Canada. Did you see any one of those people intervene in the protests that were happening in Canada? Why do you have somebody like a George Soros and all these meetings that Rahul Gandhi is doing having linkages with this one man who has pledged $1 billion to ensure that there is a change of government in this country? Why would Rahul Gandhi hobnob with agencies such as these and have someone like Dorsey, who's fairly aligned to this kind of group or worldview, speak at a time and question India for doing what it would otherwise. If you're telling me that governments world over do not have the authority to ensure peace and law and order in the country and ask social media giants to restrict accounts which are spreading hate and venom and instigating people, then clearly the government would be failing for not having protected people.
Suppression,
but the larger question here is whether it is the farm protest, whether, no, let me finish, Rahul, whether it is Pegasus, whether it is the CA protest, why is it so happens that Rahul Gandhi goes abroad, meets these kind of people, and there is a trigger here in India and the Congress laps up? I mean, this interview figured perhaps last night, late last night, and this morning the Congress was all over with it. Did they know about it? Had they orchestrated it? Have they seen this coming and were they ready for it? Is Rahul Gandhi and Congress party now going to lean on foreign money and media to fight the 2024 election? That is the larger question that must be asked.
The insinuation in what Amit Malviya is saying is this: has Rahul Gandhi met with Jack Dorsey or spoken to him over the last few days? The first part of his visit, when he was going university campus hopping, that was in the public domain. After that, he seems to have gone underground, or at least he's having a break. There are those in the BJP who think, did Dorsey meet Rahul Gandhi? Did Dorsey speak to Rahul Gandhi? Did the Congress know that this was coming? How do you respond to these charges?
No, I first want to respond to the use of your word underground. Please take back your words. Don't speak like that about national leaders. That's part number one. I hope you will silently listen to me with rapt attention like you listened to the BJP spokesperson. You know, there is so much doublespeak from the BJP that it's baffling beyond a point. And I will tell you why do I call it doublespeak. The reality is that each time Rahul Gandhi goes overseas, whether it is US, UK, wherever he goes, the BJP's IT machinery, the BJP's top leaders, the ministers, the out-of-work MPs, they really have no relevance within the government because the government is being led by 1.5 people, Mr. Modi and some contribution from Mr. Shah. Their only relevance, including the person sitting here, is to attack and to troll Rahul Gandhi, and that's what they have reduced themselves to. My apologies to them that during the US visit this time, you had to go through many sleepless nights because visits were happening at 3:30, 4 a.m. India time. You had to sit there, rapt attention, pen and paper in hand to take down every pointer that Rahul Gandhi spoke. I hope you educated yourselves. But beyond that, I have actually two instances to point out because we are talking about quote-unquote foreign powers. My first point is that when Rahul Gandhi was in the US, there were some people who raised pro-Khalistani slogans there and said we will do the same when Mr. Modi visits the US. What should a responsible government or a party in power have done? Written to the Biden administration and should have said, we will not take this line down. It doesn't matter who you said before. Nothing anti-Indian will be taken in our stride. What did this man and his party do and the government? They actually went and stood with pro-Khalistanis, blinded by their hate against Mr. Gandhi. That's their reality. Second point.
But you aren't answering my question. Did Dorsey meet Rahul Gandhi? Did they speak?
I'm answering your question, please. No, 1 second. No, please. I will not answer your question unless I give my answer because you did not insist. I had raised a very important question on COVID. You didn't seek an answer there. So please wait. Rahul Gandhi's US trip also was happening when there was an ugly, absolutely brutal float in Canada which depicted the assassination of India's Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Has the Indian government, has the BJP written to the Trudeau administration stating, forget about making a statement here to ANI and saying that, not even naming Indira Gandhi. Have they written to the Trudeau administration denouncing it and asking for action to be taken? Point number 3, and this is a very important point. They will slay Jack Dorsey. They will say stuff against some people who will talk. But what about Antony Blinken? He is the Secretary of State on the 2nd of June 2022 when he said religious freedom and human rights violations are happening in India. The entire party and government went hammer and tongs against them. But the same government and the same party will lap up what a John Kirby says, an official much lower in rank than the US Secretary of State. The double speak is on your part. The double speak is with your obsession with Rahul Gandhi. You have to attack him no matter what he says. You are so blinded by your hatred.
No, but you aren't answering my question. Did Rahul Gandhi meet with Jack Dorsey before this interview was made?
That's the problem.
He's spoken to Breaking Points, which I was looking at is a YouTube and podcast channel.
Do you have any proof?
No, I don't know. I'm asking you.
No, just let me finish. Let me finish. I'm asking. No, I also asked 2 questions to which I got no answer. How did the COVID data leak? And on your channel, I am now reading a news that how did kooky militants help the BJP, Hemanta Biswa Sarma and Ram Madhav? Will I get answers to this question? I'm absolutely certain he did not meet. He was there to do a lecture at Stanford, to meet USC. He met the diaspora. The problem is that because he speaks a language of love and India, it baffles the BJP. It rattles the living daylights out of them. Otherwise, they would not be sitting with such sleepless nights. Every word of Rahul Gandhi has to be countered by the BJP's
Amit Malviya, Supriya Shrinate officially denying that Rahul Gandhi and Dorsey have met. You're leveling this charge. She says, where is the evidence that Dorsey met or spoke to Rahul Gandhi before he did this interview?
I also asked
you had to ask her 3 times to clarify before she came to the point. But Rahul, whether he met him or not is something that will be out in the public domain in times to come. But what is definitely a known truth is that Rahul Gandhi is very closely aligned to the George Soros ecosystem, and we had somebody who works very closely with George Soros be part of one of the meetings that Rahul Gandhi attended. And therefore, Rahul, I mean, can we have this conversation and not have shrieking Jane all over the place, please? Thank you. The fact is that there are these questions that have been asked several times in the past, and I think it is for any sensible person to know what Rahul Gandhi's clandestine visits and meet in US are all about. Having said that, on the other point of the Congress spokesperson lamenting about the Khalistani intruding in Rahul Gandhi's program, or for that matter, the procession in Canada, I want to ask them, back home here in India, they sup with the DMK, which has embraced the killers of Rajiv Gandhi because it is convenient for them. What happens to that particular aspect? How is Congress so convenient when it comes to the Khalistanis in America, or for that matter the procession in Canada, but would keep silent when DMK hugs the killers of Rajiv Gandhi? Is Rajiv Gandhi lower in order than Indira Gandhi and what happened with the Khalistani protests there? That's the question that the Congress must sort out within themselves. You can't be a hypocrite. You can't run with the hare and hunt with the hound. So when it's politically convenient, you embrace the killers. When you want to make a political point about Indira Gandhi's assassination, you go all over the place, despite the Minister of External Affairs coming out very openly against what happened in Canada.
Okay.
But that is the Congress for you, and that is the reason why the Congress is in the shape that it is.
Rahul,
and I want
to go across to Sanjay Hegde and
Rahul
to Amit
Gandhi is somebody.
No, Rahul, you will have to give me a right to respond.
Rahul Gandhi is somebody who's constantly undermining India's interest. He's seeking foreign intervention, and that is very unfortunate.
What is this
Okay,
all about?
before I go across to Sanjay Hegde and Jitin Jain, let me give Supriya Shrinate, who's protesting vehemently for some reason, an opportunity to rebut.
What do you mean protesting vehemently for some reason? I don't understand the use of your language,
You've
frankly,
spoken
sometimes.
twice.
I'm protesting for my right to respond, and I think I'm under every right to respond.
I must go across to the other panelists as well, but go ahead.
Let me finish. I want to make a point. And the point that I want to make is, please wait. The point that I want to make is, look at the double-speak and hypocrisy of the BJP. They don't even want to stand up for the Indian Prime Minister being assassinated, and that's Indira Gandhi. They don't even want to take on the pro-Khalistani forces in the United States because they are so blinded by their hatred against Rahul Gandhi. But you know what? Go ahead. Hate Rahul Gandhi more. The world and the country is seeing what you are capable of. And the more he speaks about love and the more venom you spew, the better it is for us, the better it is for the country, because the country is seeing a stark comparison between you and between what we stand for. You stand for Godse, we stand for Gandhi. We stand for India, you stand for Khalistan. We stand for love, you stand for hatred. You always want to damn Rahul Gandhi, go ahead and do that. But guess what? Your propaganda has outlived its relevance, and which is why even on a platform that you want to abuse here like Twitter, you are really a pale shadow of what you used to be.
Mr. Malwa, you want to
Rahul,
take 20 seconds to respond?
We've stood up for Indira Gandhi. We have stood up for Rajiv Gandhi. We have stood up for Indira Gandhi. Both were former prime ministers. But the problem is
I wonder
that
when.
Congress
Have you written
chooses
Supriya,
to
let him speak.
stand
Supriya, let him speak.
against the
Supriya, let him
Khalistanis
speak.
and assassins
Not right.
of Indira Gandhi, but they have no problems with the DMK embracing the murderers of Rajiv Gandhi because it is politically convenient for them. Rest everything else is rhetoric and lecture. Rahul Gandhi
rubbish.
is dangerous for this
Absolute
country
rubbish.
because the kind of people he's
Stop it.
hobnobbing with
Don't
in an
stoop to a
attempt
level so low that even you will be
unseat
ashamed
a
of
democratically
yourself. You
elected
are
government.
only capable
He
of
is
stooping
dangerous
to a
for this country. He's insidious. He must be watched out for.
Okay, I want to go across to
And don't scream in my ears.
Jitin Jain first. Jitin Jain, does the timing seem suspicious and odd to you? The BJP suspects, why is he speaking now? The Prime Minister is in the US, the very high-profile visit. Or do you think just too much is being read in the timing? Jack Dorsey is definitely not taking instructions from anybody who might have an anti-India script, and therefore he's speaking his mind as he would, and the timing is just coincidental.
No, I think Jack Dorsey is now an irrelevant person, and what he is speaking is not a new fact. I think it is true that government of India wanted to ban some accounts. It is true that he didn't comply with the Indian laws. It is also true that government of India threatened to carry out legal action against Twitter in case they were not willing to comply with the Indian laws of appointing a grievance officer, a compliance officer, and opening a local office here in India. And this whole incoordinated theory of raid. Delhi police went to Twitter office for the first time in their life because they didn't even know where the Twitter office was before that particular visit. Twitter always said that they do not have an office in India. It is a marketing office. They were operating out of a virtual office somewhere in this, near Gurgaon, in some, unknown part of Delhi. It was then when Delhi police went to that office and found that whether Twitter operates here or not, guards there said that Twitter does not have an office over here. It was only when they insisted that they want to check a particular floor, it was found that Twitter has a virtual office over there, which is called a marketing office without a Twitter board. So I think if you do not comply with Indian laws of opening a local office here, or having a chief grievance officer available here, or having a local employee over here, having a compliance officer, obviously any government in the world will carry out a regulatory action. So there is no great stuff about it. Second, I think there are two different contexts to what Jack Dorsey is saying. The threat of carrying out a legal action was when Twitter was refusing to comply with the local laws of appointing a legal officer and opening a local office. It had nothing to do with banning of accounts. That is a issue which was happened earlier. Now, even if you look at that issue, government of India wanted Twitter to ban 1,200 odd accounts. Majority of them, many channels have done the investigation. Most of them were fake accounts masquerading as Indian citizens, political activists, journalists, operated by ISPR sitting in Rawalpindi, spreading disinformation, hatred, inciting violence, sometimes calling out for the assassination of sitting Indian Prime Minister, carrying out, instigation of Red Fort violence, and, trying to attempt to turn the protest into a violent protest. Now, imagine 50 lakh people, there were 50 lakh tweets against Indian government during that time. I'm not defending BJP here, it may be any government. But 50 lakh tweets had, were critical of BJP government, for whatever reasons, in support of farm protests. Did BJP ban all 50 lakh tweets? Did they ban all, 1 million accounts? They targeted 1,200 accounts where there was a specific information that they were operating from the IP addresses based out of Lahore, Rawalpindi, and other states of Pakistan. Some accounts were hacked, some accounts were impersonated. So, I agree to the point. One or two cases may have been the cases of high-handedness. But out of 50 lakh tweets, if 1,200 odd tweets
Let
or accounts
Sanjay Hegde respond to the point that you're making.
Second, last point, Rahul, I want to make.
Okay.
Rahul, I want to make a last point. This is the same hypocrite who's sitting with his 4 cronies in a California boardroom decided that he wanted to deplatform a sitting US president, a man which half of the US entrusted with the nuclear launch codes. This man, sitting as a viceroy, declared him as incapable of operating a Twitter account or a Facebook account. Now, this was done without any legal order, without any executive order, without any judicial order. And this is the same guy who 6 months, and the reason was that Donald Trump may have incited violence and he was spreading disinformation. And this same bunch of cronies sitting in a leftist drawing room in California decided that people who carried out mass execution in football field, people who paraded suicide bombers on Afghan National Day and Victory Parade were allowed on Twitter. They are okay to be on Twitter. So I think what he's ranting against BJP government or India is just nothing but a verbal diarrhea. They
Okay,
think that
this
they are
is a
above
conservative
law.
bias
They have a problem
from a man who's very clearly left-leaning, and therefore Jack Dorsey can't be taken at face value. The Twitter files themselves, Sanjay Hegde, reflect and bring out Twitter's own internal workings and show that they're shadow banning a lot of people who
not
ideologically...
internal working, Rahul. Not internal working. Conniving with an FBI agent to shadowman accounts to help a particular political party come into power, and also the cases of foreign interference in foreign elections, and working at the behest of FBI and CIA. I mean, let's talk about it. They were working as an extension of an intelligence agency.
Okay, Sanjay Hegde, their bias is clear, and therefore whatever they say has to be looked at in the context of their very clearly known and established biases.
Well, the earliest account that they banned was me, and my bias is never described as right-leaning. Okay, so Twitter's point often is that they decide what goes on their platform. Government's point, or various governments around the world, would like to control what is on the Twitter platform. So, in this particular interview, Dorsey puts India along with Turkey and Nigeria as places which were dangerous for his employees, where his employees were threatened with even arrest, and therefore they were forced into some kind of compliance. To Dorsey's credit and discredit, because I've been at the receiving end also, I had to take him to the Delhi High Court. He spent a huge fortune. Twitter India spent a huge fortune in legal fees to ensure that I did not come back. It was only after the Elon Musk came in that my account was free. Now, on the other hand, Twitter has also taken the Indian government to the Bangalore High Court, saying that the Indian government cannot be the sole determinant as to what can and cannot be shown on the platform. The judgment is still awaited. The question often is, what is the extent of free speech that can be allowed? Free speech does not necessarily mean popular speech. Popular speech needs no protection. It is unpopular speech which afflicts the comfortable and comforts the afflicted. That's the kind of speech that governments have problems with. And can the government be the sole determinant as to what its people will speak and where they will speak? If they speak on Twitter, can the government shut its citizens down? I have constantly been saying that you need a mechanism outside of the government and outside of Twitter or any social media platform, which will be an arbiter. That has not happened.
Okay, so Amit Malviya, Twitter puts out legal demand data in the public domain, and if you compare the number of legal demands being made by a country like India, which is a democratic country, relative to other countries which are also democracies, India ranks much higher. As Dorsey says, the number of demands coming in from the Indian government are closer to a country like Turkey, Nigeria, which aren't known as being part of the liberal order, and therefore suggesting that India, in his view, despite being a democracy, has far more restrictions on free speech than most countries. I mean, US and the United Kingdom, I have the data before me, give only a fraction of the number of requests that a country like India is giving to social media giants like Twitter, asking them to take down posts which the government doesn't like for various reasons.
Rahul, can I take this question if you allow me?
Just one second. Amit Malviya, please.
Rahul, first of all, I have a bit of a disagreement with what Sanjay Hegde had to say. It is not for these platforms to decide what can be shown and what cannot be shown. There is a very clear law in the country, whether you are a publisher, do you exercise editorial control? There is a certain shareholding pattern that has been prescribed for it if you're a foreign entity, or you are a simple platform. In both the cases, the law regulating your operation in the country differs. This is a matter of technicality, legality, company law, and all companies have to adhere. Platforms like Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms cannot dictate to governments that they will do what they think right, because they're not sovereign republic. They operate here, they earn money from here, they have to pay taxes here, they have to be accountable and follow the rules of the land. Let's be very, very clear about that. Twitter thought for a while that they could get away, but of course the government of the day had different ideas, and we know how to enforce laws. We know how to ensure that corporates that operate here stick to the framework that is applicable to all. We have to ensure a level playing field. Coming to the point of requests. Now the requests that go has to be looked in terms of either number of users or population per lakh. It can't be just absolute numbers. And for India as a democratic country, it's again not for platforms like Twitter to sit in judgment of whether we are democratic enough or not, whether we are upholding free speech or not. There is a certain statute in the books, there is the constitutional framework, and then there are courts. We decide what is free speech. The Twitter, or for that matter any other social media platform, cannot sit in judgment and censor people, take down posts, restrict reach, which is what Twitter was doing for the longest time.
But the government can't decide what is free speech either, Mr. Malviya. The government can't decide what is free speech either. You would not like anything which is anti-you. That would be a very restricted way of looking at free speech.
Rahul, let me just finish this. You are absolutely right. The government cannot decide, and the government should not decide, and no government should decide what is free speech or not. But the government certainly can make demand, and if, for example, an account is indulging in criminal activity, or is promoting terror, or is peddling pornography or pedophilia, naturally the government of the day is well within its right and to ask for the account to be taken down, and social media platforms have no other option but to comply. The end user, the aggrieved party in this case, can go to the court and seek remedial. For example, I know for a fact that Sanjay Hegde's account was shut down for whatever reason it was, and he had the option to go to the court and seek remedial course. Whatever happened eventually is a matter of judicial process, but those options are available. So I'm completely in sync with the fact that governments do not decide what is free speech and what is not free speech. But we have reasonable restrictions in India. Let's talk about US, where the First Amendment gives absolute freedom of speech. What was Twitter doing there? Twitter was in cohorts with the agencies there and pulling down, for example, the New York Post, which put out a story on Hunter Biden. On the other side, New York Times, which put out details of Trump's tax filing, were put on the public domain, which is actually a violation of the US laws. And Twitter was party to that violation. So let's not take Twitter's word as gospel.
Okay.
The track record under Dorsey was dark and checkered.
Supriya Srinath, you can't just look at the actual number of takedown requests. You have to look at the actual population. Jitin Jain made the point about many of these being traced back to IP addresses in Pakistan, suggesting that some of them were actually accounts which were trying to foment trouble. There may have been the odd case of mishandling or high-handedness, but a lot of it was foreign government propaganda run by the likes of the ISI, the ISPR, which had to be taken down. So the actual number of takedown requests per se doesn't mean anything. You have to look at it in the context of the size of our country.
No, absolutely not. I think that's a very lopsided argument, and I'll tell you why. We are the third highest number of takedown requests from Indian government goes to Twitter. I actually want to ask a counter question. Is the debate about what Jack Dorsey said, or is the debate about annihilation of free speech? And I think the larger debate is about that. The larger debate is what was happening to farmers, and instead of finding a solution to that, the government was trying to suppress their protest. The government was trying to suppress voices that were showing that protest. It is quite clear. There are 1,48,000 farmers who are still facing cases from back then. Why is the government not resolving them? Over 750 farmers lost their lives in this protest. What about them? But the reality, Rahul, is a little bigger. Whether it is Dainik Bhaskar, whether it is Newsclick, Newscred, Wire, Quint, Why have all these companies been raided? These companies have not been raided because nobody follows the law of the land and only a few in this country do. These companies are being raided because some tough questions are being posed by them to the Modi government, and the Modi government is not comfortable with those questions. I want to make a larger point, and I think the larger point to be made here is that this government gets upset with criticism. They have a thin skin. They do not like people who don't comply with them, to the extent that Smriti Irani one day intimidates a journalist and within hours he loses his job. If this is not intimidation that's happening in broad daylight, मैं तुम्हारे मालिक को फोन करूंगी, मैं तुम्हारे मालिक को फोन करूंगी, what else is? And which is why the larger point that is being made here is what Jack Dorsey says and what the government then did. If Jack Dorsey had said this and the reality on the ground was that there was farmer protest happening, everybody was showing it, the government was in constant dialogue, the government did not meet the farmers for 11 months. And they were sitting at the borders of New Delhi. And do I have to show you pictures to remind you how those borders were dug up and how barbed wires were put there? Do I have to show you pictures to remind you how over 750 farmers lost their lives? Do I have to show you pictures to remind you how old men were battered and beaten up by the BJP government?
Okay.
Do I have to show you pictures of that? No. Which is why the reality and what the government was trying to do was in sync. Such ye hai कि किसान आंदोलन के दौरान भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मोदी सरकार ने बर्बरता की हर सीमा लांघ दी थी और वही दिखाने का प्रयास किया जा रहा था जिससे इनको आपत्ति थी, जिससे इनको दुख था, दर्द था.
Does this in any way, as I conclude, Amit Malviya, in your view, mar the Prime Minister's visit next week, or do you think this is just like water off a duck's back? He said what he has to, it's kind of predictable, life goes on, the Prime Minister goes out and does what he needs to in the US.
Well, clearly this is going to have no impact on the Prime Minister's visit, but clearly it is very, very obvious that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party are leaning on foreign money and media to fight domestic battles. And the kind of political rhetoric that we've just heard from the Congress spokesperson goes on to further reinforce the idea that the farmer protest was actually instigated and had the support of big money overseas. The Pegasus controversy, on which Rahul Gandhi led the charge in the parliament and outside, was foreign sponsored and had George Soros and his ecosystem behind it. The Rafale deal that Rahul Gandhi worked against was again at the behest of powerful forces abroad. Similarly was the case with CAA protests. Now this is a very dangerous trend for democracy when the principal opposition party, at least
I'm out of time,
still won, even though they do not qualify for the leader of opposition position. But the fact is that this is insidious. Rahul Gandhi is dangerous. He is playing footsie with dangerous elements, people who have terror linkages, people who are hobnobbing with ISI, Jamaat, the Chinese establishment. Rahul Gandhi is playing a very, very
Okay, I'm coming to you, Supriya. I'm coming to you.
It will not end well for the Congress party and Rahul Gandhi, because India clearly has moved on and they have reposed faith in Prime Minister Modi's leadership, and Rahul Gandhi's nefarious design to undermine the will of the people will meet the fate that several opposition leaders in the past have. It might well be the final battle for Rahul Gandhi before he fades away in oblivion.
15 seconds, Supriya Shirnet, 15 seconds, I'm out of time, quickly.
It's just going on. Yeah, he can speak for 2 minutes and I get 15 seconds. That's the reality of Indian media, but I will still make it in 10 seconds.
Ma'am, you spoke. One second. Hold that thought. One second. You can't just get away by making these kind of pot shots. The fact is, both these leaders have spoken equally. For anybody who's watching, you yourself would testify to the fact that both the BJP and the Congress leaders have spoken near equally. Make your point. Don't attack me. Make your point.
Let me finish my line.
Yes, you can.
I'm not attacking you. I'm only telling you time distribution, and anybody else can go and see how with rapt attention and absolute love you were listening to him and you kept interjecting me. But if this man believes that there was foreign money involved which fueled the farm protest, did the Prime Minister of this country do an anti-national activity by withdrawing the farm laws?
Like
Why did he withdraw the farm laws? अगर गलत लोगों का पैसा लगा था तो नरेंद्र मोदी ने farm laws को withdraw क्यों किया? ये जवाब दे सकते हैं यहाँ पर.
That the farmer protest had foreign interests working in the backdrop, and Rahul Gandhi was one of the beneficiaries. He went abroad and sought foreign support. He went to the United States and had meetings with people people aligned to the Jamaat and the ISI. He had clandestine meeting with the American administration, details of which have to be put out in public domain. Is Dorsey part of the larger kid gang of the Congress party which is being funded abroad? That is the big question that we need to ask.
Okay. That's the reality of Indian media. Go ahead, enjoy yourselves, because this is an entertainment.
The reality is that if you scream and you make no sense, nobody's going to listen to you.
The Prime Minister of India, did he do an anti-national activity?
Okay, I'm out of...
Don't scream. Don't scream.
Okay, I'm out of time. This will go on. Remember, we're getting into election season and the knives are out, the gloves are out, and there will be a lot more of this power. But what we tried to do for the large part of the debate, as I hope that most of you are watching would agree, give equal time to both parties to put their points of view and to bring out different perspectives. And we'll see a lot of these heated contests as we build to the next year's general elections. I want to thank our guests for joining us. We'll slip into a break and have more for you when we come back. Prime Minister Modi hitting out at the opposition, saying there was earlier a rate card for jobs. Details coming up on the other side.
Where the software engineer meets the smart market analyst, meets the talented photographer to create the big dream. The world comes together at Sharda University. So where are you? Where the software engineer meets the smart market analyst, meets the gifted content writer to create the big dream. The world comes together at Sharda University. So where are you?
Pranav Salkar saw his mother struggle to get water after coming back from work every day. The nearest source of water was half a kilometer away. Pained by this sight, the 14-year-old took matters into his own hands. He started digging a well, and in 4 days, he struck gold.
मी एक सूचना दिली होती काही ते कोण कण थोडंसा पाणी लागतो का आपण बघूया. नंतर आम्ही मग कामावर जायची सुरुवात केली. मग त्यांनी मनापासून सुरुवात केली खोदायला. त्याच्याकरता त्यांनी खोदता 3-4 दिवस त्यांनी लावले आणि पाणी लागलं.
Pranav's parents speak fondly of their son's efforts. They recount how he had made a ladder to dig out soil from the pit.
आम्ही मजुरी करतो आणि संध्याकाळी येतो काम करून. मग मला त्रास होतो म्हणून माझ्या वडिलांनी विहीर खोदली 4 दिवसात. मला आनंद वाटतो.
ते पाणी तुम्ही वापरता का?
त्या पाणी आम्ही वापरतो.
Kelve village in Palghar gets piped water thrice a week. To Pranav's parents, who work as labourers, the well is a relief. And it goes without saying, Pranav is now a hero in his village. Bureau Report, India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
As the opposition tries to unite against the BJP ahead of the 2024 elections, Prime Minister Modi launched a scathing attack, calling out corruption. The Prime Minister said that earlier there was a rate card for jobs, a jibe directed at Lalu Prasad and Mamata Banerjee.
परिवारवादी पॉलिटिकल पार्टियों ने भाई भतीजावाद को बढ़ावा दिया. हर चीज में रेट कार्ड, हर चीज में कटमनी. उनका रास्ता है रेट कार्ड.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi fires another salvo at the opposition. While distributing 70,000 offer letters in the Rozgar Mela, Prime Minister Modi took pot shots at opposition parties for alleged corruption and nepotism that hurt the youth of the country.
एक राज्य में कैश फॉर जॉब के घोटाले की जांच में जो बातें बाहर निकल करके आई हैं वो मेरे देश के नौजवानों के लिए बहुत बड़ा चिंता का विषय लेके आई है। उस राज्य का क्या पद्धति है, क्या बात उभर करके आई है। नौकरी सरकारी चाहिए तो हर पद के लिए, जैसे होटल में आप खाना खाए जाए और रेड कार्ड होता है ना, हर पद के लिए रेड कार्ड है।
In a direct attack on RJD Supremo Lalu Prasad Yadav and West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, Modi accused them of taking cash for jobs.
भाई भतीजावाद करने वाली वो पार्टियां, भ्रष्टाचार में रोजगार के नाम पर देश के नौजवानों को लूटने वाली पार्टियां, जो रेड कार्ड, हर चीज में रेड कार्ड, हर चीज में कटमनी, उनका रास्ता है रेड कार्ड। जबकि हम युवाओं के उज्जवल भविष्य को सेफ गार्ड करने पर काम कर रहे हैं।
Accusing past governments of dynastic politics, Modi claimed his rivals only favored their own families instead of putting the citizens' interest first.
हमारे देश में परिवारवादी पॉलिटिकल पार्टियों ने हर व्यवस्था में भाई भतीजावाद को बढ़ावा दिया। जब सरकारी नौकरी की बात आती थी तो उसमें ये परिवारवादी पार्टियां भाई भतीजावाद, सिफारिश और भ्रष्टाचार को ही बढ़ावा देती थी।
The Congress hit back at Modi, calling out rampant unemployment under him, saying offering job letters doesn't ensure job in hand. Modi's sharp attack on the opposition comes at a time when the opposition is trying to build a united front to fight the BJP in 2024. Low job creation is one of the key issues being raised by the opposition. Bureau Report, India Today.
This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, goodbye, good night.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 44 and minimum 39 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 30 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 33 and minimum 24 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 38 and minimum 32 degrees.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mode.
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 44 and minimum 39 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 30 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 33 and minimum 24 degrees. Chennai, maximum 37 and minimum 30 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 38 and minimum 32 degrees.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mode.
Co-presented by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Co-presented by Kentaro, जो देता है सबसे शुद्ध पानी. Co-presented by JK Tyre Ranger Series, stay wild at heart. Co-presented by Hayfler, let's reimagine. Powered by NECC, Sunday होया Monday, रोज खाओ अंडे.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination news, newsmakers talking points. The big talking point, did the Modi government threaten Twitter? That's the big question. Can Twitter be above the law of the country? Are democratic freedoms under threat, as is being alleged? We'll have the big Twitter debate in a moment. But first, as always, time for the 9 headlines at 9. A big claim by ex-Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey sparks off a major political war. He says the Indian government threatened to shut down Twitter during the farmers' protest and raided its officials. Centre calls it an outright lie, claims it's a toolkit conspiracy by the Congress. Orange alert now issued for cyclone Biparjoy. The severe cyclone storm will make a landfall in Kutch on June 15. 21,000 people evacuated in Gujarat. 69 trains are cancelled. The BJP chalks out a strategy for 2024. Ministers that are Rajya Sabha MPs will be asked to contest polls. They could include Nirmala Sitharaman, Mansukh Mandavia, Piyush Goyal. Ministers being asked to look for safe seats. The Prime Minister lashes out at the opposition at a Rozgar Mela, compares Rate Card Party versus Safeguard Party, also launches a Parivarvad attack once again on the opposition.
Violence, clashes and showdown over panchayat polls in Bengal. Fresh clashes erupt in Bardhaman and South 24 Parganas. It's BJP versus ally Shinde Sena in Maharashtra after a newspaper ad shows Eknath Shinde as the preferred CM choice in 2024. Shinde denies printing the ad, says a supporter published it. After IT raids, ED heat now on Tamil Nadu Minister Senthil Balaji in the Jobs for Cash scam of 2014. Properties related to Balaji raided. Chief Minister Stalin accused the BJP of misusing central agencies. And TN BJP Chief Annamalai sparks a fresh controversy. Now says rampant corruption under Jayalalitha government. Ally AIDMK slams him. Shashikala calls him a politically inexperienced kid. And ex-US President Donald Trump to make a court appearance in a classified documents case. Trump encourages supporters to join the planned protests. Security around the Miami court is tightened. But our top story tonight. Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has lit a political fire in India. Dorsey claimed in an interview to a YouTube channel in the United States that he was pressurized by the Modi government to restrict the accounts of several journalists and other members of opposition parties during the farmers' protests. Dorsey alleges there were threats of shutdown, raids and arrests. India's IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar has dismissed Dorsey's claims, calling them an outright lie. The opposition has used it to try and attack the Modi government, claiming that there is no freedom in what they claim is that freedoms are under threat. It's our top story tonight.
The world's largest democracy threatened to shut down Twitter, claims a Twitter co-founder and former CEO. Jack Dorsey made the stunning charge in an interview to YouTube channel Breaking Points. The face-off between the Narendra Modi government and the social media giant escalated during the year-long protests against farm laws that were enacted but later withdrawn.
India, for example, India is a country that had many requests of us around the farmers' protest, around particular journalists that were critical of the government, it manifested in ways such as we will shut Twitter down in India, which is a very large market for us. We will raid the homes of your employees, which they did.
Constantly questioned every single thing.
Dorsey's claims have sparked a political firestorm. The Modi government has rubbished the charges.
The fact is the following, that Twitter was in violation of Indian law, laid down Indian law,